Hey friends, welcome. Today we will be discussing Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation. Now this theory was basically given in 1880s by Arrhenius, and this theory explains the electrolytic dissociation of the electrolytes. Like suppose if we say we have NaCl, so this NaCl will, as we all know, that it will dissociate into Na plus and Cl minus ions. So how they will dissociate and what are the properties of the ions in the solution was explained by Arrhenius. Now this is one of the most basic theories in chemical sciences. Now initially when he gave this theory faced several mistrust, and a few of the scientists they opposed him also, but as the time passed, this theory gained more and more confirmation, as well as more and more confidence was seen in this theory. Now in a modern era, this forms one of the most basic things, and he was given Nobel Prize in 1903 for his contribution, and that was around after 23 years of this theory being proposed. He was awarded Nobel Prize. Now this theory is based on several points as follows. The first point is that any molecule of an electrolyte in the solution will break up into two types of charged particles, and these charged particles will be referred as ions. So as I told earlier, suppose if we take sodium chloride. Now this sodium chloride is an electrolyte, and this sodium chloride, when we dissolve it in water, then we know that it will dissociate into Na plus and Cl minus ions in the aqueous solution, and Na plus and Cl minus ion are the two types of charged particles that are generated in the solution. So basically we are talking about solution chemistry, and basically we are dealing with the solutions of the electrolytes, whether it may be a strong electrolyte or it may be a weak electrolyte in the solution. The next point, it says that the total charge of cations that are present in solution is equal to and opposite to that of anions that are present in the solution, and the solution as a whole, it is electrically neutral. Okay, so the total amount of cations, that is Na plus ions, will always be equal and opposite to the anions. So Cl minus ion are the anions. Negatively charged ions are referred as anions, and positively charged ions are referred as cations. So one molecule of NaCl, suppose, will give us one molecule of, say, one sodium ion and one chloride ion. Okay, and this positive charge as well as negative charge will counterbalance each other, and the solution that we are having is always electrically neutral. You have also experienced the same thing, that suppose if you are taking a beaker, or say if you are taking a glass, and in that glass you are taking water and adding, say, salt, NaCl, and if you dip your finger, you are never getting electrical current. Okay, why you are never getting an electrical current? Because the solutions of any electrolyte, okay, if we say any electrolyte, is always electrically neutral. Then the next point is that the ions, they are constantly reuniting to form undissociated molecules, and there is a state of equilibrium between ionized and unionized molecules. So this this is specifically for weak electrolytes. Sodium chloride is a strong electrolyte, so strong electrolytes, they dissociate completely, while the weak electrolyte, suppose if we take the example of weak electrolyte, we have acetic acid. Acetic acid is a weak electrolyte, and acetic acid will dissociate, or it will dissociate very feebly to give CH3 acetate ion plus H plus. Okay, so over here the ionized and the unionized electrolytes, they are always under a state of a dynamic equilibrium. That means acetic acid will dissociate to give acetate ion and H plus ions, and similarly both this negative and positive ions, they will recombine to give us acetic acid back, and this is a dynamic process, and there exists a equilibrium between both of these. Okay, then the last point, or the next point, is that the ions, as we know, that they are not stationary, or they are not steady at one point, but they are always under continuous motion under the influence of the electricity. And when we are supplying certain amount of electricity, say suppose say I am taking a beaker, and in that I am preparing a solution of NaCl, okay, and then I am dipping two electrodes. I am dipping two electrodes, and suppose I am giving or providing, say, this positive charge, and this will be negative charge, or I am connecting it to an external battery source. Then we all know that, suppose this is the positive charge, or this is the positive electrode, and this will be the negative electrode. So the positive ions will migrate towards the negative electrode, and the negative ions will migrate towards the positive electrodes, and that means that oppositely charged ions will migrate towards the oppositely charged electrodes, and as a result there will be a conduction of electricity. Or ionized solution, they have tendency to conduct the electricity as under the influence of the external applied electrical field. The next is that the properties that are shown by the electrolytes, they are the properties of the ions that are produced. So whatever the properties are shown by electrolytes, for example, one of the most basic properties is color. Okay, one of the most basic property is color. Say suppose if we are taking an example of copper sulfate solution, so we know that copper sulfate solution is blue in color, and this copper sulfate solution, it dissociates to give us Cu plus 2 plus SO4 2 minus. So the blue color of copper sulfate solution is because of Cu plus 2 ion. So the properties that we are seeing in an electrolytic solution is not because of the undissociated electrolyte, but basically it is 100% because of the ions that are present in the solution. Okay, and the electrolyte at any given dilution may not be completely ionized, and again this is for weak electrolytes, because strong electrolytes, they are completely ionized. So this is for weak electrolytes, and they are not completely ionized, and the fraction of amount of molecules that are ionized is referred as degree of ionization, or many a times it is also referred as degree of dissociation. So the fraction of molecules, say suppose say that I am taking 100 molecules of acetic acid. Now out of that 100 molecules of acetic acid, say only 25 molecules of acetic acid, they are dissociating into ions, that is 25 CH3CO minus and 25. So this is the degree of dissociation, and this could be obtained by number of molecules dissociated divided by total number of molecules. So this is always in fraction, so this will be 0.25, and if any electrolyte it dissociates completely, then the degree of ionization or degree of dissociation will be equal to 1. So it could not be greater than 1. Okay, so this is how we obtain degree of dissociation or degree of ionization. Now this degree of ionization, it also depends on several factors, like we have nature of electrolyte. So again, as I have told, degree of if we are taking, say, strong electrolyte, like we have say suppose if we have, say, HCl, or if we have, say, NaCl, or any strong electrolyte, say sulfuric acid, or any other strong electrolyte, then they will dissociate completely 100%, and their degree of ionization will be 1. But if we are taking, say, any weak electrolyte, like we have acetic acid, or we have ammonium chloride, so these electrolytes are weak electrolytes, and they undergo, or they will pass through an equilibrium state, and as a result the degree of dissociation is always less than 1. Okay, it is always less than 1. So it depends, a degree of ionization, it depends on the nature of electrolytes. So if we have strong electrolytes, then they will dissociate completely, and if we have weak electrolytes, then they will dissociate feebly. Then the second factor on which the degree of ionization depends is the nature of solvent. Now nature of solvent, that means whether a solvent is a polar or non-polar. So for example, say if we are adding say NaCl in water, then water molecule or water is highly polar, and as a result NaCl will dissociate completely, and there will be complete dissociation, or the degree of dissociation will be 1. And suppose if we are taking, say, any non-polar solvents like benzene, so if we are adding NaCl in benzene, so sodium chloride will dissociate very feebly in benzene, and the degree of dissociation will be always less than 1. So degree of ionization, it depends on the nature of solvent also, and also we know that like dissolves like. So water being a polar solvent, all these molecules, sodium chloride, ionic solids, all are polar and they dissociate. So they dissolve very easily in polar solvents, and they will dissociate, or they will be literally insoluble in non-polar solvents like benzene. Then presence of other solutes also, suppose common ion effect. So if several other solutes are present, then because of common ion effect, the degree of dissociation, there will be a decrease, or there will be a reduction in the dissociation, and as a result a degree of ionization or degree of dissociation may be affected. Dilution, so as we increase the dilution, the equilibrium is always shifted towards the right hand side, and as a result, as we are increasing the dilution, degree of dissociation or degree of ionization, the value of degree of ionization, it increases, and it tends to move towards 1. That means more and more weak electrolyte will dissociate into the ions. So as the dilution increases, suppose for example, if I am taking, say, 1 molar solution of acetic acid and say 0.01 molar solution of acetic acid, then out of both these solutions, the degree of dissociation of 0.01 molar acetic acid will be greater as compared to the degree of dissociation of 0.01 molar acetic acid will be greater as compared to 1 molar acetic acid, because this solution is more dilute, and as the dilution increases, the degree of dissociation also, or degree of ionization also, increases. Then temperature, again we all know that as the temperature increases, the rate of any particular reaction increases, and over here also, as the temperature increases, again the degree of ionization will also increase. That means more and more electrolyte will be converted into ions. So these are few of the factors on which the degree of ionization, it depends. Now there are several evidences given, or there are several evidences which favors the Arrhenius theory of electrolytic dissociation. Now out of that, the first evidence is the heat of neutralization. Now heat of neutralization, basically it is the heat that is generated when the neutralization reactions takes place. So suppose simple, we are talking about acid base and neutralization reactions. Suppose if we are taking acid, that is HCl, which is again a strong electrolyte or a strong acid, and NaOH, which is again a strong base. So we know that acid and base, it reacts to form salt and water, and along with that 13,700 calories of energy, or calories of heat will be liberated, or energy will be liberated, and this is the heat of neutralization. This is the amount of heat. Similarly, suppose if we are taking, say, acetic acid, again acetic acid is a weak electrolyte, it dissociates very feebly, and again this acetic acid, it is reacted with sodium hydroxide, which is a strong electrolyte as well as a strong base. Then again we will get sodium acetate, water, and 13,400 calories will be released. So over here the difference is 13,700 minus 13,400, so there is a difference of around 300 calories. Now this 300 calories is the heat of neutralization, which is being utilized for the breaking of the bonds, or for which is utilized for the dissociation of the weak electrolyte or weak acid, acetic acid, and hence on the basis of heat of neutralization we could show that there is an ionization of electrolytes are taking place. The next evidence is the color of solutions. Now color, as I have told earlier also, that certain compounds, when or certain compounds they show possess color in solution, either in the solids form also they are colored in nature, as well as when we dissolve those solids in water or in any particular solvent, then they will show color, and this coloration is due to the presence of the ions. For example, as I have stated earlier, copper sulfate solution, basically we all know it very well that it is blue in color, and this blue color is due to the presence of Cu+2 ions which are present in the solution. Similarly, potassium permanganate, we know it is purple in color, and that are due to the presence of iron. Similarly, cobalt+2 as well as Fe iron salts, they are also colored in nature, and that are basically because of the ions that are present in the solution. Now, next evidence is one of the most interesting evidence, that is the ions that are also present in the solid electrolytes also. So, when we study the X-ray diffraction patterns of say sodium chloride crystal, then we know that in sodium chloride crystal, NaCl, it is not present in the form of NaCl units, but it is present in the form of Na plus and Cl minus units. We all know it very well that each Na plus ion is surrounded by 6 Cl minus ions, and each Cl minus ion is surrounded by 6 Na plus ions, and vice versa. And why the ionic solids, they do not conduct the electricity in the solid state? The reason is that the ionic solids, being closely held together, they are very closely packed together, and as a result, as they are very closely packed, these ions, they do not have tendency to move, and as they do not have tendency to move, they will not conduct electricity. But when they are in molten state, or when they are in fused state, then in fused state, these ions, these ionic compounds, they are very good conductor of electricity, because when we convert or when we take the ionic solids in the fused or in the molten state, then these ions will now have tendency to move, and as they will move, they will conduct electricity. And this shows that the ion means in NaCl or in ionic solids, they are not present in bonded form, but they are present in the ionic forms also. Now, next evidence is the abnormal colligative properties. Now, we all know that colligative properties are those properties which depends on the number of the electrolytes. Okay, so the colligative properties we have there are 4 basic colligative properties, like we have osmotic pressure, depression in freezing point, elevation in boiling point, and relative change in vapor pressure. So these are the 4 colligative properties, and out of those colligative properties, osmotic pressure is one of the most studied colligative properties, because the variation in osmotic pressure could be measured very easily, and with small amount of electrolyte also, the osmotic pressure variation in osmotic pressure could be measured very well, and as a result, osmotic pressure is one of the most studied colligative properties. Now, over here, when we are preparing a decimolar solution of say urea and sugar, they will show same osmotic pressure, because urea, or for simplicity, say suppose if we are taking say 10 molecules of urea and 10 molecules of say sugar, then they will show same osmotic pressure. But in the same way, if you are preparing say NaCl solution, again if you are taking 10 molecules of NaCl solution under the same condition, then the value of the osmotic pressure will be doubled. And why this value is being doubled? As we all know that this NaCl molecule, it will dissociate to form Na plus and Cl minus ions, and as they are dissociating into Na plus and Cl minus ions, so the total number will be in the solution, we will have 10 Na plus ions and 10 Cl minus ions, which will give us, or which will yield 20 ions, and this 20 ions will produce double osmotic pressure. Okay, so this clearly shows that ionic solids, they are present in the ions form, and it is not observed in case of sugar as well as urea, because they are not dissociating. Okay, so hence we can say that NaCl, being an electrolyte, it undergoes ionization, and it gives approximately double value. Okay, now there are several limitations of Arrhenius theory also. Now one of the first limitation is that Oswald dilution law, which is based on the Arrhenius theory. It is not applicable to strong electrolytes. Oswald dilution law, it is applicable only to the weak electrolyte. Basically, with the help of Oswald's dilution law, we can obtain the degree of dissociation and dissociation constant and several other things. So this is purely applicable to the weak electrolytes only. It is not applicable to strong electrolytes. Then the second point, as I told earlier also, as we have discussed in the case of X-ray studies, that is strong electrolytes, they conduct electricity in infused state or in molten state in absence of water, and this is contradiction with Arrhenius theory, to which presence of solvent must be required for ionization. So according to Arrhenius theory, for any electrolyte that needs to undergo ionization, there should be, or there must be a presence of solvent. But in absence of water also, NaCl, suppose if you are taking the example of NaCl in molten state, it could conduct electricity, and that we have seen also that this was not known, or X-rays were not much studied at the time of Arrhenius, so it could not explain the behavior or explain why the ionic solids under molten state could conduct electricity. Then the third point is that Arrhenius theory, it assumes the independent existence of ions but fails to account the factors which influence the mobility of ions. So over here there are several factors which could influence the mobility or the speed at which the ions migrate, like viscous drag, influence of oppositely charged ions on each other, influence of same charged ions on each other. So this influence was not discussed anywhere by Arrhenius. Then Arrhenius theory, it could not explain the variation of transport number with the concentration. So transport number, again, it is the fraction of charge that is being carried by, say, either cation or anion, and transport number we write it as T plus, that will be equal to velocity of say cations upon the total velocity of cations plus anions. So there is the fraction of electricity that is being conducted by either cations or anions. It is defined as transport number, and Arrhenius theory could not explain why the transport number it varied with concentration. So suppose for example, say I am preparing 0.1 normal say acetic acid solution again, and if I am preparing say 1 normal, or 1 normal acetic acid solution, so in both the cases, or say let me say 0.01 normal acetic acid solution and 1 normal acetic acid solution. So in both these cases, if I am calculating the transport number of say H plus ions, then the transport number of H plus ions will be different, and why it is different, it could not be explained by Arrhenius theory. And the last point is that heat of neutralization of HCl and NaOH was found independent of concentration, but their degree of dissociation as measured by conductivity measurement was found to decrease with the increase in concentration. Thus heat of neutralization should also decrease with increasing concentration. So this was the last point, that is heat of neutralization, it was obtained, it was found that heat of neutralization, it is independent of concentration. That means if you neutralize, say suppose 0.1 and normal NaOH versus 0.1 normal NaOH, or if you neutralize 1 normal NaOH versus 1 normal HCl, the heat of neutralization will be same, but their degree of dissociation as measured by conductivity measurement was found to decrease. But if we are finding out the degree of dissociation, then as the concentration is changing, as the concentration is increasing, degree of dissociation is decreasing, and as the degree of dissociation is decreasing, the heat of neutralization should also decrease with increase in concentration. But this is not clearly explained, or this is not clearly explained anywhere in the Arrhenius theory. So as we are increasing the concentration, degree of dissociation is decreasing, and so the heat of neutralization should also decrease, but this could not be explained in Arrhenius theory. So these are some of the limitations of Arrhenius theory. Hope the Arrhenius theory of electrolyte dissociation is clear. Thank you very much. See you soon.